The twin suns of Threx burned like molten gold in the alien sky. Their light fell across a grand city of silver towers and floating gardens. It was the capital of the Threxian Dominion, home to one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. And today, something historic was about to happen. Inside the royal palace, made of crystal walls and glowing veins of energy, thousands of alien nobles gathered. Their scaled skin shimmered under the lights, and their eyes, slit like a predator's, followed every movement. The air was filled with whispers, disbelief, and a hint of insult, because standing beside their queen was a human. His name was Elias Kane, a young diplomat from Earth. His dark hair, calm eyes, and simple black ceremonial suit made him look almost fragile next to the tall, armored Threxians. Unlike them, he wore no protective plates or glowing insignia of power, just a plain silver ring on his finger and a quiet smile on his face. The moment he walked into the throne hall beside Queen Zalara, the nobles began to murmur. "He looks weak. How can such a small creature be worthy of our queen? Humans, always pretending to be brave." Zalara ignored the whispers, though she heard every word. Her golden crown caught the twin suns' reflection, making her seem like a being carved from fire and steel. She was over 2 meters tall, her posture perfect, her presence heavy with command. Yet as she stood next to Elias, she felt uncertain. This marriage was not for love. It was for peace. For decades, her people and the humans had fought terrible wars. The Threxians were proud conquerors, tall, fast, and built for battle. They believed themselves unbeatable. But when they reached Earth, they discovered something they never expected: humans who refused to surrender. Human ships, smaller and weaker, had fought until the last engine burned. Human soldiers had held cities for months without supplies, and even when defeated, they came back stronger. It was not logic. It was something deeper, something Threxians did not understand. Zalara had lost half her fleet to that human spirit. And now, by treaty, she was to marry one of them. She had met Elias only a few times before this day. He was polite, calm, and intelligent. His words carried no arrogance, but there was strength in the way he looked at her, as if he saw her not as a queen, but as a person. That alone made her curious and uneasy. The royal priest began the ceremony, his voice echoing across the grand hall. Today, 2 great civilizations end their war and begin their unity. The Queen of Threx and the Envoy of Earth shall join as one to symbolize peace among stars. Elias turned slightly towards Zalara. He bowed his head in respect before he spoke his part. His voice was steady and clear. "I, Elias Kane of Earth, offer friendship and loyalty to Queen Zalara of Threx. May our bond bring peace that weapons could not." The hall was silent for a moment. Even the alien nobles who had been whispering before fell quiet. The humans' words were simple, but they carried a weight that no one could deny. Then it was Zalara's turn. She took a deep breath, her sharp gaze fixed on him. "I, Zalara of the Threxian Dominion, accept this alliance. Let this union bind our worlds, not through fear but through strength." Her words sounded proud, but inside, she felt strange. There was something in Elias's calm expression that unsettled her. No fear, no pride, just quiet certainty. It reminded her of the moments before a storm. When the final vow was spoken, the lights dimmed. A low hum filled the air as the Union seal, a golden energy symbol, appeared between them, glowing bright before sinking into the skin of their hands. The ceremony was complete. The hall erupted in applause, though some clapped only out of duty. The nobles' faces were tight, their smiles false. Only a few of them truly believed in peace. Later that evening, a grand celebration began. The palace's floating gardens shone under artificial moons, and alien musicians played strange, elegant harmonies. Dishes from across the galaxy were served, sparkling drinks, glowing fruits, and meat that changed color as it cooked. Elias moved through the crowd politely, answering questions with a smile. The aliens observed him carefully. Some asked about Earth's technology, others mocked its primitive defenses. Elias never reacted with anger. He only listened, nodded, and replied with simple honesty. Queen Zilara watched from the balcony above, studying him. She was surrounded by her council, who whispered behind her back. He seems too quiet. Humans are unpredictable. We should not trust them. Perhaps this alliance is a mistake. Zilara's expression did not change, but her claws tightened around her wineglass. She had agreed to peace, but she knew her own people's hunger for dominance had not ended. And yet, Elias's calm patience made her think of something her war instructors never taught: control through understanding, not force. When she finally joined him in the garden, Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," he said softly. "You must be tired of speeches tonight." She raised a brow. "You are not like most humans I have met, Elias Kane." He smiled faintly. "I've heard that before, usually right before someone tries to test it." There was a small spark of humor in his voice. Zilara found herself suppressing a smile. For a human to joke so easily before the Queen of Threx, it was unusual, brave even. They walked together along a path of glowing vines. Around them, the music faded into the distance, leaving only the hum of the night. "Tell me," she said after a while, "why did your people agree to this marriage? Surely Earth does not send its diplomats to be trophies." Elias looked up at the twin moons. "Earth has a long memory, my queen. We know what endless war does. Sometimes peace requires a human face, a reminder that behind every flag there's someone willing to try again." Zilara tilted her head, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. "You speak like a soldier." "I used to be one," he admitted quietly. "Before diplomacy." That caught her attention. "You? A soldier?" He nodded. "Humans fight when we must, but we prefer to build when we can." There was a pause. The Queen studied him, trying to sense the truth. Humans, she knew, were fragile in body, but they endured pain and loss in ways even her strongest warriors couldn't. Perhaps that was their true weapon. Before she could ask more, one of her royal guards approached and whispered something in her ear. Zilara's expression turned cold. "What is it?" Elias asked softly. "Nothing of importance," she lied. "Just political noise." But it wasn't nothing. The guard had reported strange encrypted messages passing through the palace network, signals traced to her own generals, the same generals who opposed this alliance. The Queen dismissed the guard and turned back to Elias, who still watched her with calm eyes. "You're quiet," she said. "Most humans I've met talk too much." "I've learned silence is useful," he replied. "You can hear what people really think." She gave a short laugh. "And what do you hear tonight, human groom?" Elias looked around the glowing garden, at the nobles pretending to smile, at the guard standing a little too still. Then he met her eyes. "I hear tension, fear, and something waiting to break." Zilara's expression hardened. "You are perceptive." "Humans had to be," he said simply. "Our survival depended on it." The conversation lingered in her mind long after they parted. That night, when she stood alone in her chamber overlooking the city, she found herself wondering what kind of strength lay beneath that quiet human skin. The Threxians measured power by muscle, by armor, by the size of their ships. But the humans, they seemed to measure it by something else entirely. She looked down at the glowing mark on her hand, the symbol of the alliance. It pulsed faintly, matching her heartbeat. Outside, thunder rolled across the twin suns' horizon, as if the planet itself sensed the coming storm. Elias, meanwhile, stood at his window in the guest wing of the palace. He watched the same lightning dance across the clouds and whispered to himself, "Old habits die hard, I suppose." From his pocket, he pulled a small silver device, no larger than a coin. It projected faint lines of code into the air, reading the energy patterns in the palace walls. His expression darkened slightly as he saw the anomalies, the same encrypted signals Zilara's guard had reported. Someone was already moving against the alliance. He sighed, then shut the device off. "Not tonight," he murmured. "Let them celebrate a little longer." As he turned off the light and lay down, the faint hum of hidden technology pulsed beneath the palace floors. Somewhere in the shadows, machines older than the war stirred awake. Machines built not by Threxians, but by humans. The stars, outside, shimmered like distant eyes, watching silently as a fragile piece took its first breath. The next morning on Threx began with thunder. Dark clouds rolled across the twin suns, turning the silver city into a shadowed mirror. The palace lights glowed faintly against the storm, but inside its grand halls the mood was darker still. Queen Zalara sat in her private chamber, staring at a holographic map of her empire. The red dots, rebel signals, pirate movements, and political unrest, glowed like small wounds on a body. She had thought the marriage to the human diplomat would calm the galaxy, but it had only stirred more trouble. Her advisors were divided. Some supported peace with Earth, others believed it was weakness. And now, strange encrypted messages were moving through the palace systems, messages that her own security team could not trace. She tapped her claw against the table. "Who dares use military channels inside my own palace?" The guard bowed his head. "We are still investigating, my queen, but the source may be internal." Her golden eyes narrowed. "Meaning my own generals?" "Yes, Majesty." Zalara dismissed him with a wave of her hand, but her thoughts would not rest. The wedding had barely ended, and already shadows were forming around her. She had expected tension, but not betrayal so soon. Elias Kane, the new human groom, stood on the balcony of his quarters. The storm winds blew through his dark hair as he looked out over the alien city. Floating ships drifted between towers like silverfish in the sky. He could feel something was wrong. He had learned to trust that feeling years ago, back when he was a soldier on the Mars front. Humans had built machines to predict battles, but instinct still saved more lives than algorithms. He heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Ravi, his young human assistant, enter the room carrying a datapad. "Morning report, sir," Ravi said. "Communication from Earth Command. They want confirmation that the Alliance is stable." Elias gave a small smile. "Define stable," Ravi hesitated. "Well, the alien nobles keep sending messages to their fleets. The Queen's guards watch us everywhere we go. And half the guests at the wedding party were armed, so stable as a sandcastle during a tide," Elias said dryly. Ravi grinned a little, but then frowned again. "Sir, the encrypted transmissions we picked up last night, they're increasing. Whoever's sending them, they're inside the palace systems, and they're good." Elias's expression changed. "Good how?" "Human-level encryption," Ravi said quietly. "It's not Threxian code." That made Elias pause. "Human-level? Are you sure?" Ravi nodded. "Positive. Someone here is using tech based on Terran systems, but it's been modified, alien style." Elias turned to look at the storm again. The rain hit the balcony rail like soft glass. "Then we're not just dealing with rebels," he said. "We're dealing with someone who studied us." He straightened his jacket. "Keep it quiet for now. No alerts, no panic. Let's see who tries to move first." Later that day, the Queen called for a council meeting. The Grand Hall of War was filled with Threxian generals, ministers, and alien scientists. They all stood around a circular table that projected the galaxy in shimmering light. Earth and Threx glowed beside each other, connected by a golden beam, the new peace treaty. "Your Majesty," said General Torvak, bowing low, "forgive me, but the people grow restless. Our fleets remain idle while human ships move freely through our borders. They say the Queen has surrendered Threxian pride." Zalara's gaze turned sharp. "Our pride cost millions of lives, General. It is time we learn value beyond war." "But, Majesty," another general said, "these humans are unpredictable. Their history shows constant conflict. How long before they turn that cleverness against us?" The Queen's tail twitched slightly, a sign of irritation. The same could be said of any empire, including ours. At that moment, the doors opened and Elias entered. Every head turned. The sight of a human inside the sacred war chamber made several generals hiss softly. Elias bowed respectfully. "My apologies for the interruption," he said calmly. "The Queen invited me to observe." "Yes," Zalara said firmly. "He is my husband and my representative from Earth. He will stand here as proof of our alliance." The silence that followed was heavy. Elias stepped closer to the table. "If I may speak," General Torvak cut him off. "We do not take orders from fragile creatures who bleed if the wind scratches them." Elias met his gaze evenly. "Then it's a good thing I'm not giving orders." The room fell even quieter. The human's tone had been calm, not arrogant, but it carried authority, the kind earned from experience, not titles. Solara studied him closely. His composure under pressure impressed her. Few even among her warriors could face General Torvak without flinching. Torvak gave a short, mocking laugh. "Perhaps you would like to show this council what human strength looks like, huh?" Elias smiled faintly. "Another day, perhaps. I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone before lunch." Some of the younger officers hid their smirks. The queen herself almost smiled, but she hid it well. Torvak's eyes burned with anger, but Solara raised a hand. "Enough. This is a council, not an arena." The meeting continued, filled with reports and debates. But the tension between Elias and the generals did not fade. Solara could feel the invisible lines being drawn, the side of peace and the side of pride. When the session ended, she called Elias aside. They walked together down a long corridor lined with glowing statues of ancient Threxian heroes. "You handled yourself well," she said quietly, "but you should not provoke my generals. They are loyal but proud." Elias nodded. "I noticed. But they also fear change. That makes them dangerous." She gave him a sharp look. "You speak as if you've led armies." "I've seen what happens when pride rules them," he replied simply. For a long moment neither spoke. The storm outside pounded against the palace walls and thunder echoed like distant guns. Then suddenly, a soft alarm tone rang from Zalara's wrist device. She looked down. It showed an emergency code, intrusion detected in the Royal Communication Core. Her eyes widened. "Again?" Elias looked at the code. "Same encryption pattern as before?" "Yes," she said. "We've tried to trace it, but..." Before she could finish, the lights flickered. The palace systems glitched for a moment. Then the projection in front of them changed. A holographic symbol appeared in the air, an emblem shaped like a claw around a burning sun. Elias frowned. "That's not Threxian." "No," Solara said grimly. "It's the mark of the Crimson Wing, a military faction that opposed the peace treaty. They were supposed to be disbanded." "Apparently," Elias said, "they disagree." Guards rushed into the hall, their armor clattering. "Majesty, the northern comm tower is offline. Someone's rerouting palace defenses." Solara straightened. "Lock down the upper levels. Secure the council wing." Elias turned to her. "If they're using hybrid tech, part human, part Threxian, they'll bypass your security faster than you think. You need someone who understands both systems." She hesitated, then gave a small nod. "You?" "I'll need access to your control hub," Elias said. "And one trusted guard." Without another word, the queen gestured to her captain. "Take him. If he fails." Elias cut in gently. "Then you'll still have your revenge, your majesty." Her eyes met his for a second. Beneath his calm voice, she sensed something else, an old confidence, quiet but unbreakable. The control hub was buried deep beneath the palace. The walls were covered in living metal that glowed faintly with blue veins of energy. Elias sat before the console, his fingers moving fast across the alien controls. Data streamed across the holographic screen, symbols mixing Threxian script and human code. "Whoever's behind this," he muttered. "They know both our systems perfectly. They're trying to open the palace defense gates. Let a strike team inside." The guard beside him shifted nervously. "Can you stop them, human?" Elias's eyes narrowed. "Maybe, but I need time." He pulled a small disc from his jacket and placed it on the console. It projected a swarm of miniature drones that began scanning the circuits. "What are those?" the guard asked. "Helpers," Elias said simply. "Think of them as human intuition, but in metal form." Within seconds, the drones traced the attack path. Elias found the source. It wasn't from outside the palace. It was coming from the royal data core itself. "Inside," he whispered. "They're already here." He turned to the guard. "Find the queen. Tell her not to trust anyone near the throne room." As the guard ran off, Elias kept working. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He had seen worse situations before, outnumbered, surrounded, outgunned. But this time it wasn't a battlefield. It was a wedding alliance on the edge of collapse. He typed a final command, forcing the system into lockdown. The lights flickered again, then stabilized. The attack was blocked, but only for now. Elias exhaled slowly. That's one move delayed, he muttered. Next time, they'll come in person. Meanwhile, in the throne chamber, Queen Zalara was meeting her generals again. She stood tall, but her instincts screamed that something was wrong. General Torvak stepped forward. Majesty, reports say human devices have been found in our systems. How can we be sure this alliance is not a human trick? Zalara's tail lashed once. Careful, General. You walk close to treason. But before she could continue, the palace doors suddenly opened, and a group of armed guards entered, their insignias replaced by the crimson wing symbol. Galara froze. Her own palace guard, turning against her. By order of the true Threxian Dominion, one of them shouted, the Queen is relieved of command. Blades and plasma weapons rose. The storm outside the palace had grown worse. Lightning flashed across the twin suns' horizon, and thunder rolled like the sound of distant cannons. Inside, the Threxian royal palace was no longer a place of peace. The grand halls echoed with alarms, shouts, and the heavy sound of armored boots. The Crimson Wing, the rogue military faction, had made their move. Queen Zalara stood in the center of her throne room, her golden eyes burning with fury. Around her, a dozen of her most loyal guards formed a protective circle. The traitor soldiers of the Crimson Wing surrounded them, weapons raised, their armor painted with red streaks of rebellion. "Drop your weapons," one of the rebels shouted. "Surrender and you will be spared." Zalara's voice was sharp and proud. "You dare betray your queen inside her own palace? You will regret this treachery." The rebel commander stepped forward, lowering his helmet. It was General Torvak, the same officer who had questioned her alliance with Earth. His reptilian face twisted into a cruel smile. "The Dominion has no need for weak queens or human pets," he said. "The people want strength, not peace." "You have forgotten who we are." Zalara raised her chin high. "Strength without honor is only destruction," Torvak sneered. "We will rebuild our empire without your softness. Take her." The rebel soldiers advanced. Zalara drew her royal blade, its blue light cutting through the smoky air. Her guards fought fiercely, but they were outnumbered 3-1. The palace trembled as blasts hit the marble walls. Then suddenly, a loud hum filled the chamber, low and strange. The lights flickered. Every weapon screen glitched for a moment. And from the far end of the hall, Elias Kane walked in. He looked calm, his black ceremonial jacket torn from running through the chaos. His eyes, normally soft and polite, were now sharp and cold. Torvak laughed. "The human dares show himself? Perfect. I'll end this farce myself." Elias's voice was quiet but steady. "You've made a mistake, General." Torvak raised his plasma blade. "You think you can fight me, little man?" Elias took a deep breath. "I don't need to fight you. I just need to protect her." As he spoke, the silver ring on his finger began to glow faintly. Thin lines of light spread across his skin like small rivers, pulsing with soft blue energy. The alien rebels paused, confused. Then the floor beneath Elias shimmered. A faint circular pattern appeared, a hidden activation field. From the shadows above, tiny metallic drones uncloaked and began to move, small silver machines shaped like insects. They hovered silently, forming a protective ring around him. The Queen stared in shock. "What is this?" she whispered. Elias looked at her, his tone still calm. "Something I hoped never to use," Torvak roared. "Kill him!" The rebels fired. Dozens of plasma shots filled the air, bright as lightning. But before the bolts could reach him, a shimmering barrier appeared around Elias, a field of transparent light that bent each blast away. The energy ricocheted off the walls, harmless. Zalara could hardly believe what she was seeing. This wasn't Threxian technology. It was something more advanced, something almost alive. Elias lifted his hand and the drones responded instantly. They moved in a perfect pattern, projecting thin beams of light that struck the rebels' weapons. One by one, the guns sparked and fell apart, their circuits fried. Within seconds, the entire attack had stopped. The room went silent, filled only with the hum of the drones. Torvak stepped back, stunned. Impossible. No human can do that. Elias looked at him. Humans don't show everything we build. Sometimes we keep things for when peace needs defending. The Queen stared at him, her eyes wide. You have Threxian-level tech? He gave a small, tired smile. Higher. Humanity learned long ago that survival means being ready, but silent about it. The drones floated closer to him, forming a shield wall. Their light grew brighter, casting soft reflections on the throne hall. Torvak screamed in rage. You tricked us! You came here to control the Dominion! Elias shook his head. No, I came here because your queen wanted peace. You chose war. With a small gesture, he sent the drones outward. They didn't kill. Instead, they released a pulse of sound, a deep, resonating tone that made every rebel drop their weapon and fall to their knees, disoriented. Zalara's guards quickly moved to disarm them. Within minutes, the rebellion inside the palace was crushed, but the Queen could not look away from the human who had done it. Elias stood quietly in the middle of the chaos, surrounded by drifting smoke and flickering light. The barrier around him slowly faded, and the drones returned to their resting mode, clicking softly as they folded into small metallic spheres. The silence was almost sacred. Finally, Zalara spoke. Her voice was softer now. Elias, what are you? He met her gaze. A man who wanted peace, but I was also a soldier once, and Earth doesn't forget how to defend itself. She stepped closer, searching his eyes. Why hide this power? You could have ended the war easily. He looked down. Because power brings fear. If we showed what we could really do, every world would see us as a threat. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, Zalara. We just want to survive in it. Zalara's expression softened. She had fought countless battles, but she had never seen such control. Humans were small, fragile, and emotional. Yet this man had stood alone against an army and ended it without bloodshed. For the first time, she saw the truth of humanity's strength. It was not their weapons, not their technology. It was their discipline, their will, and their choice to fight only when they had no other path. Elias turned away, his breathing steady. There are more of them, you know, he said quietly. The Crimson Wing won't stop here. They'll strike again, maybe from orbit next time. Zalara nodded. Then we prepare. She looked at him again. Together. He gave a small smile. Together sounds good. Hours later, the storm outside began to fade. The lightning slowed, and the rain turned gentle, washing away the smoke that had risen from the palace. But the scars remained. Parts of the great hall were damaged, walls cracked, and fires still smoldered in the gardens. Queen Zalara stood on the balcony with Elias beside her. Below them, the city was quiet. The citizens had seen the flashes from the battle, but they didn't yet know the truth. Your people will ask questions, Elias said softly. They always do, Zalara replied, and now I must answer them with truth. You saved my life, Elias Kane, and you saved the peace we built. He shook his head. You saved it. I just made sure you had the chance. She looked at him, studying his face. You hide your strength well. Humans have to, he said. The galaxy doesn't trust what it doesn't understand. For a long moment, they both stood in silence, watching the sun break through the clouds. The light fell across the silver towers, painting everything gold. Then the Queen asked quietly, If humanity can create such power, what else are you hiding? Elias chuckled softly. You don't want to know. Perhaps I do, she said, half smiling. He looked at her, his voice thoughtful. Earth learned something after the wars. The strongest weapon isn't made of metal or code. It's made of choice. When to fight, when to stop, when to forgive. Zalara nodded slowly. And when to reveal the truth. Yes, he said. That too. Later that night, as the palace was being repaired, Elias sat alone in his quarters. He opened a small metal case on the table. Inside was a silver emblem, the mark of the Terran Vanguard, Earth's secret defense organization. It wasn't just diplomacy that had brought him here. Earth had known the Threxian Dominion was unstable. They had sent Elias not only as a diplomat but as a watcher, a silent guardian. He touched the emblem and whispered, "Mission parameters changed. The Queen knows, but she trusts me." The case blinked once in response, recording his voice. Then it sealed shut again. Elias leaned back and looked at the stars outside the window. Somewhere out there, more trouble waited. But for now, there was peace. Meanwhile, in a secret chamber beneath the city, the remaining Crimson Wing generals gathered around a holographic table. Their leader, bruised but alive, slammed his fist on the surface. "That human, he is not what he seems. He wields power even our scientists cannot explain," another voice hissed. "We underestimated Earth." The leader's eyes narrowed. "No. We've learned something important. If humans hide strength like this, they must fear something even greater." "Then we find out what it is," the others agreed. As they vanished into the shadows, the rebellion continued to breathe, silently waiting for its next chance. Back in the palace, Queen Zalara couldn't sleep. She walked through the empty throne hall, the smell of burned stone still hanging in the air. She touched the cracked floor where Elias had stood earlier. In her mind, she replayed the scene, the light, the drones, the way he had stood between her and death without hesitation. For a warrior queen who had seen countless battles, it was humbling. She looked up at the dark ceiling and whispered, "Humans, you are more dangerous than any empire I have known, but perhaps, also, more noble." From outside, the soft glow of the humans' drones passed by her window, floating quietly like stars. They were scanning the palace one last time, making sure everything was safe. And somewhere nearby, Elias Kane watched too, his hidden strength now revealed but his true limits still unknown. The peace between Earth and Threx had survived its first test. But both the Queen and the human knew. The galaxy was watching and the real challenge had only just begun. The palace was quiet the morning after the attack. Broken walls had been repaired, smoke cleared, and the fires of the previous night were gone. But the air felt heavy, thick with tension and whispers. Queen Zalara walked through the main hall alone. Her golden eyes scanned the walls, her claws brushing lightly over the engraved murals of ancient Threxian heroes. She had led her people through countless battles, crushed entire fleets, and yet, yesterday she had seen something she had never imagined. A human, one of the weakest, most fragile species in the galaxy, had stood alone against an army, and the palace had survived. The thought did not sit easily with her. She reached the throne chamber and saw Elias Kane standing by the balcony, his hands resting lightly on the railing as he looked out at the city below. The storm had passed, leaving a soft glow on the silver towers. "Elias," she said softly, her voice carrying across the empty hall. He turned, offering a polite nod. "Majesty." "You did well yesterday," she said. "More than well, I've never seen anything like it." Elias inclined his head, his expression calm. "I did what I had to. No one should die needlessly. Your people, your palace, your life," Zalara studied him. "Your power. Your drones. The energy shields. How could one human possess so much?" He gave a faint smile, almost sad. "It isn't about strength alone. It's about preparation, patience, and knowing when to act. Humans have learned to survive in ways many stronger species cannot imagine." She frowned. "But your kind is weak, frail, physically incapable of fighting like us." "Physically?" "Yes," he admitted. "But our strength lies elsewhere. In our minds, in our will, in our ability to endure when others break. And sometimes," he paused, "sometimes we hide our true capabilities until the moment we need them most." The Queen's eyes narrowed. She had studied warriors all her life, seen them die and conquer. Yet she felt a strange awe at the calm confidence of this man. "You are different," she whispered. Elias turned toward her. "Different how?" "Different from anything I've ever faced. You are human, Yet you command respect without raising a blade, and you strike fear without showing anger. She hesitated. You make me question everything I thought I knew about strength. Elias bowed slightly. I didn't want to show this side of humanity so soon. But some things cannot wait. Peace is worth revealing ourselves for. Solara stepped closer, her golden eyes studying his face. Peace or survival? He shook his head. Both. Hours later, the Council of Threxian generals and ministers convened again. This time it was different. Their faces were still tight, still proud. But there was something else too. A glimmer of fear. General Torvak sat at the head of the table, bruised from the previous night. His pride had been wounded. And in his mind, one question dominated. How could a human, a species weaker than ours, defeat us so easily? You need to understand, Torvak said, addressing the council. Humans are deceptive. What we saw yesterday may be a single trick. They hide strength until it suits them. We cannot trust the queen or her human husband. Solara stood at the side, her presence imposing. And yet, she said, the palace survived because of him. Not me, not any Threxian. Humanity's strength preserved us all. There was silence. None of the generals knew how to respond. They had always equated power with weapons, armor, and fleets. Yet a simple human had disproved all of that. Elias stepped forward, his calm voice cutting through the tension. You fight like the past rules your minds. You measure strength in size, in firepower, in fear. But power is also in control, in choice, in knowing when not to strike. Yesterday I chose peace. That choice saved lives, yours, mine, and hers. The council members looked at each other. No one spoke. Solara, seeing their hesitation, continued. Elias is right. Our pride almost destroyed us. We must learn to balance strength with wisdom. To fight only when necessary, to defend only when we must. This is the lesson humanity brings us. Torvak's tail flicked nervously. And if this peace fails? If humans turn against us? What then? Elias's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. Then I will fight again. But I hope it never comes to that. Humans prefer survival, not conquest. Later that day, Zilara invited Elias to walk with her in the palace gardens. The rain from the storm had left the floating gardens glistening with water. Strange alien flowers shimmered under the soft sunlight, and the air smelled of wet metal and fresh vegetation. You saved me, she said quietly as they walked along the glowing path. And yet, I can't stop thinking. Why do humans hide strength like this? Why do you not show it to the galaxy? Elias shrugged. Because showing everything would cause fear, not respect. You cannot rule the stars by scaring everyone. You rule them by earning trust, even if it takes time. Solara looked at him thoughtfully. And if they betray you? He smiled faintly. Then we fight. But only when necessary. She stopped walking, staring at him. Do you fight for duty? Or for choice? For both, he said. The galaxy is full of war, Solara. But we humans have learned that surviving without honor is not true victory. Yesterday I defended life because it was the right choice, not because it was the easiest or safest. The queen's heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something she had never expected: respect, awe, and a strange admiration for this fragile yet powerful human. That evening the palace was quiet. The repairs were nearly complete, but the echoes of the rebellion still lingered. Zilara stood by her balcony looking down at the city below. Her mind replayed the events of the day, the attack, the humans' calm command, the drones, the barrier. She touched the glowing mark of the Union seal on her hand. It pulsed softly. A reminder that this alliance was not just political, it was personal. Elias approached quietly. You're thinking too much, he said gently. I am, she admitted. I cannot stop thinking about what happened. About you. He gave a small, faint smile. I am not extraordinary, Zilara. I just do what must be done. Humanity's strength is not in me alone. It is in our choices, our will to endure, and our patience. You are extraordinary, she whispered, because you choose wisely, and because you act without arrogance. For the first time, Elias looked unsure, almost human in his modesty. I have learned from mistakes, he said quietly, and I will continue to learn. That is all I can promise, she nodded slowly. Then I must learn too, perhaps, from you. He looked at her soft but steady. You already have. That night, as the palace slept, Elias returned to his private quarters. He opened a small metallic box. the one containing the Terran Vanguard emblem and a series of encrypted files. He studied the holographic displays, reviewing the intelligence reports. The Crimson Wing would not stop with the failed attack. There were other factions, other generals, other planets that might rebel, but for now he allowed himself a moment of rest. Humanity's hidden strength had been revealed to the Queen, and that alone had shifted the balance. Outside, the twin moons glimmered over the palace. Solara stood silently by her window, watching the stars. She could feel a change, not just in the Alliance, but within herself. Humans were not weak. Humans were not simple. They were dangerous, yes, but also noble. Strong not in muscle, but in mind, spirit, and will. And she realized finally what it meant to truly respect another species and, perhaps, to trust them completely. As she turned away, her eyes met Elias's one last time before sleep. She felt a quiet certainty. Whatever storms the galaxy would bring, humanity would stand alongside her. Not as slaves, not as pawns, but as equals. The twin suns rose over the Threxian capital, painting the silver towers with light that made them gleam like liquid metal. The city below was quiet, as if it too were holding its breath after the storm that had shaken the palace days before. Inside the grand throne room, Queen Zalara paced slowly. Her golden eyes scanned the assembled council and generals. The rebellion had been quelled, the Crimson Wing scattered, but the after-effects lingered. Her people whispered in fear and awe of the human who had saved them. Some were grateful. Some were furious. But all were changed. Standing beside her was Elias Kane, the human groom. Unlike the alien warriors surrounding him, he bore no armor or weapons. His calm presence alone carried weight, like an invisible shield. The Queen spoke first, her voice steady but filled with emotion. This day marks a new beginning, not just for the Threxian dominion and Earth, but for all who look to the stars and wish for peace instead of war. The generals shifted in their seats, uneasy under her gaze. Torvak, bruised from the last conflict, clenched his fists. Majesty, the humans are unpredictable. How can we trust them to protect us in the future? Zalara's tail flicked sharply. Do you trust the human who saved this palace yesterday? Elias did not speak immediately. He observed the council quietly, his posture calm, his expression thoughtful. Then he said, trust is earned, not demanded. And sometimes it is proven in action, not words. Yesterday I had no choice but to act. I did not do it to gain power or glory. I did it because it was right. That is all humans ask, an opportunity to choose wisely. The generals were silent. Many of them had faced armies, fleets, and even monsters, yet none had seen a single human do what Elias had done. Queen Zalara stepped closer to him. He is not like any human you have known, she said. And if you doubt him, remember this. Without him, your palace would have burned. Your people would have suffered. And yet he stood alone, without fear, without hesitation. Some of the generals shifted uncomfortably. Even Torvak's pride was shaken. For the first time, he could see that human strength was not measured by muscle or weaponry. It was measured by choice, intelligence, and resolve. The Queen then turned to Elias, her gaze softening. You have revealed humanity's strength to me, but also to the galaxy. How can we honor such courage? Elias smiled faintly. By choosing peace and by protecting it. That is all we ask. Outside, the palace gates opened and the citizens gathered. Word had spread quickly of the human who had saved their queen and crushed the rebels. Some cheered. Some bowed. Others whispered quietly in fear and respect. Zalara stepped onto the balcony, Elias beside her. She raised her hand and the crowd fell silent. People of Threx, she said, today we see proof that strength is not only measured in weapons, fleets, or might. True strength is in wisdom, in patience, and in the courage to act when it matters most. A human has shown us this strength, not for conquest but for life. Not for pride but for peace. The crowd was stunned. Many of the older generals exchanged glances. This speech, delivered with calm conviction, was changing the way they saw the galaxy and humanity within it. Elias stepped forward and raised his own hand. His voice was steady, clear, and calm, yet it carried through the entire square. I am Elias Kane of Earth, he said. Humans are not here to conquer. We are not here to rule. We are here to survive, to learn, and to protect those who choose peace. Today we proved that strength is measured by choice, not size. and we offer that choice to anyone willing to join us in building a galaxy of trust, not fear." For a long moment, the crowd was silent. Then a few voices began to cheer. Soon thousands echoed in agreement. Even some generals nodded, realizing the truth in his words. Queen Zalara watched him with a quiet smile. In this moment, she understood fully. Humanity's hidden strength had been revealed. Later in the palace gardens, Zalara and Elias walked among the glowing plants and floating streams. The events of the past days weighed heavily on both, yet there was a calm peace in the air. "You have changed my people," Zalara said softly. "Not by force, not by weapons, but by showing them who humans truly are." Elias shook his head. "I did not change them. They will change themselves. Once they understand the choice they have been given. Strength is not enough to rule. It is how you use it that matters." She looked at him, the first rays of the twin suns lighting his face. "Your strength. It is beyond what I imagined, and yet it is not prideful. That is what amazes me most." Elias's eyes met hers. "Pride can blind. Fear can destroy. Humanity has learned that survival comes from patience, discipline, and knowing when to act." Zalara nodded slowly. "I have seen it, and I have learned that the galaxy underestimates humans at its own risk." He smiled faintly. "And that is why we are still here." As evening fell, the palace grew quiet. The throne room had been repaired and peace had returned for now. But the queen knew the galaxy was vast and threats remained. She looked out at Elias, who was observing the stars. "Do you fear what comes next?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not fear, awareness. The galaxy is full of challenges. But humanity survives by adapting, learning, and choosing when to act. We will face whatever comes together." Her heart swelled. She had always been a warrior queen, relying on strength and tactics. Yet here, beside a human, she realized that strength alone was not enough. It was choice, courage, wisdom, and humanity had all three. The following day, the council reconvened. The generals who had doubted Elias now looked uneasy, knowing the truth. His calm, measured presence had changed the balance. "Your Majesty," Torvak said reluctantly, "I see now. This human is unlike anything we expected. Perhaps we should learn from him." Zalara nodded. "Indeed. Humanity brings lessons that cannot be ignored. They teach us that strength is not just in power, but in knowing when to use it." Elias spoke up gently, addressing the council. "I do not seek to rule. I do not seek to dominate. My oath is to protect peace. That is the only thing that matters." Several generals bowed slightly. Even Torvak lowered his head. For the first time, he realized the galaxy was changing, and humans were not the weak creatures he had assumed. That night, the palace was calm. Elias stood by the balcony again, looking out at the stars. His drones hovered silently around him, ready if needed but hidden from sight. Queen Zalara joined him. "Do you ever tire of being underestimated?" she asked. He chuckled softly. "It has its advantages, but yes, sometimes I wish people would see humanity for what it truly is, without fear, without doubt." "You have shown me," she said, "and now the galaxy knows too. What will you do next?" Elias turned to her, his dark eyes steady. "I will continue to protect peace, to guide where I can, and to teach that true strength is in the choices we make. Humanity will not rule by fear. We will survive by wisdom and courage." Zalara smiled, a rare, genuine smile. "And I will stand with you," he nodded. "Then together we face whatever comes." The stars outside seemed to shine brighter. The twin moons reflected on the palace towers, casting long golden shadows. Humanity's strength, hidden but now revealed, had changed the balance of the galaxy forever. And for the first time, an alien queen understood the truth of humans. Not weak, not fragile, but strong in ways the galaxy could not imagine. Elias placed a hand over hers gently. "We are ready," he said quietly. Zalara's eyes glimmered. "Yes, we are ready." The palace was silent, yet the galaxy beyond was alive, watching, waiting. Wars could come, threats could rise, but humanity, and their queen's trust, had created a force stronger than any fleet, stronger than any weapon, a force that chose peace, courage, and strength, not recklessly, but wisely, and that was more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen.